Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishwaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satiguru Pranatoshamaham Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Welcome back to Tripura. Verse 35, page 204. The most important of all qualifications is the desire for liberation, desire for knowledge. Nothing can be achieved without it. And then Dattatreya says that you can be a scholar and know everything in terms of philosophy or academic knowledge. You can discuss or you can even teach it to others. But you're going to be a teacher like any other teacher, such as a teacher of arts or anything. You have a knowledge that does not transform your personality, but it is a knowledge, academic, philosophical knowledge. And it can be passed to other people. You know? For the matter of that, one might as well hope for salvation by studying sculpture or any other thing. The study of philosophy in the absence, I think I'm totally off here, just a moment. No, it is, what is the, okay, it's 43. No, I'm not totally. The study of philosophy in the absence of longing for self-knowledge is like dressing up a corpse. We saw that. And desire must be abiding. It must be a firm, persistent, not a casual desire, not a curiosity, not something that you try for a few months or a year and then say, oh, forget it. It has to be a burning desire, meaning to say you can't help it. It's like the person, being burned by fire. He has a desire for water or anything that could remove that suffering, that pain. So a passing desire is not of much help. The desire must be accompanied by efforts, very important point. To desire, oh, I have incredible desire for liberation and moksha. What are you doing about that? I'm only praying. So it may be okay in the later stage, but before you have to make a lot of effort in that direction to come to the point of being utterly frustrated, okay? And then you turn to prayer, maybe not. It will depend on one's effort. The intensity and the duration of this effort is going to determine the fructification, the pollen of one's efforts. It's going to bear fruit depending on how much I give into it. The desire must be accompanied by effort, just as a man is scalded by fire. We have seen that. Such an effort is fruitless and is preceded by indifference to all other attainments. So the desire must be there to the exclusion of all other desires. So this is a very, very truthful one. That's why the analogy of this desire be the desire behind all desires, and they get their fuel by burning all other small desires, as we understand that the other objects of desires are not going to deliver. So, and then this desire grows to the extent that it burns those other desires. So until there is only one desire in the mind, such an effort is preceded by indifference to all others. So this passion must develop. And this passion does not fall from the tree. It has to be gained by understanding of the nature of meteor and the objects which appear to be very attractive to the mind. So we must come to the understand that the objects have no intrinsic value, that I am the only source of value, but I need to be properly accomplished in this certainty of identification as consciousness, the source of all happiness, the only source of true happiness. Starting by discarding pleasure as being an impediment to progress. The disciple develops this passion, and then the desire for emancipation grows. And then one's power, effort, and intensity strengthens. This makes a man engage in the right efforts in which to become truly engaged. After these stages are passed, the most unique consumption takes place. When the Tattva finished, Parasurama was completely bewildered and asked him further. Is this where we stopped last time? Lord, you said earlier that association with the wise and divine grace and dispassion are the prime factors for attaining the highest goal in life. Please tell me which is the most essential of these three and how it can be accomplished. For nothing happens without an antecedent cause and effect. So what comes first? Association, divine grace, or dispassion, or discrimination? So how does this go about? So I want you to understand the entire process. So I love knowledge and I love logic. I want to be convinced not only of the value of self-knowledge, but the technology, how it develops. Okay, association with the wine, and association with the wine needs grace as well. But then what comes first, grace or the association with the wise? And dispassion and so on. So, or it just goes like accidentally. Nothing happens without a cause. This is certain. What is the root cause of these fundamental requisites, these qualifications, these events that takes place in one's life? Thus asked, Dr. Treyer answered him as follows. I shall tell you the root cause of this unfolding process of self-inquiry and self-realization, which takes place in association with the wise, which is not different from spiritual punya or Ishwara's grace. And then the other qualifications such as dispassion, discrimination, and discipline follow. Listen to me. Her transcendental majesty, the absolute consciousness being self-contained, originally pictured the whole universe in her own being, like images in a mirror. So this is a metaphor, an analogy. So everything is happening in consciousness, like images in a mirror. So this Tripura, this transcendental Brahman, took on the individuality named Hiranyagarbha, the creator. So this here, the text that Maitreya gives us a better hint, a further clarifying hint in regards to Hiranyagarbha, which is nothing other than the macrocosmic mind of God. Okay, so it brings God as individuality. Okay, the creator, the individuality. So it's we have to look how does this unfolds, because as we know, Ishwara is not an individual entity. Okay, moved by likes and dislikes and karma and so on. But it is something, it is a manifestation, let's say. It takes place as the manifest creation. So it's a manifestation that depends on Maya and the energies, because as we know, Ishwara is pure sattva, pure knowledge, intelligence of all there is, past, present, and future. So Brahman appears, takes the individuality of the creator, Hiranyagarbha, and considering the predispositions of the ego. So here, Dattatreya brings beautifully the picture of Ishwara and Jiva. Ishwara comes, and it is the intelligence of everything, and it's going to project the universe and hold it in place, sustaining it. And it does that for the sake of the egos. And it's going to design it considering the desires of the egos, the predispositions of everything is in the causal body. The causal body is there to constitute the field of the Vyavaharika, and it does so from the collective humanity's vasanas, all the vasanas, the predispositions, the tendencies, the desires and aversions of all human beings. That's why we say that Jivatma is co-creator with Ishwara, but it's not co-creating in the sense I'm on the same level and I can control my destiny. No. You give Ishwara your ignorance, and Ishwara provides you with a field on which you can go beyond your ignorance. So how you co-create? You are co-create because you're ignorant, and then you want your likes and desires met, and Ishwara, out of grace and also tremendous compassion, provides us with the objects so that we can play and hopefully grow. So we are co-creator in that sense. So the creator, taking in consideration the predisposition of all the egos, which is enclosed in this macrocosmic universe, which is like, it's said to be in a form, elliptic form, like an egg. And this Tripura, which is Brahman, unfolds the scriptures as well. I mean, it unfolds by the aid of Ishwara, the creator, which is pure knowledge. It has all the knowledge, which include the spiritual knowledge for the jivas, which is the reservoir of sublime truths for the fulfillment of one's desires. So the universe is unfolded by Brahman, and Brahman unfolds the scriptures out of Ishwara. And the scriptures are the reservoir of truth. And these scriptures serve the purpose to fulfill all desires of Jiva. So the scriptures are not telling you, yes, go and get this and this and this and this. How is the scripture going to fulfill the desires of the Jivas? It is a knowledge, it's a certain knowledge. Once knowing, it resolves the problem of the Jiva, in the sense that knowing that it has fulfilled all desires, right? All desires are fulfilled the moment that I fulfill this desire for what? For self-realization, self-recognition, self-knowledge. I want to know. I have a burning desire. But what kind of desire? Is to know my true self. So the desire, this is desire that's going to destroy all other desires, as we have seen in the previous verse. Now it grows and it burns the other desires. And then this scripture comes and says, okay, so now that you have only one desire, as it seems, so I need to send you the scriptures so that you can fulfill this single desire that takes care of all other desires. Since the Jiva Atma, the individuals who are full of unfulfilled desires, Ishwara, Hiranyagarbha, began to think out the means of their fulfillment. So Ishwara, or her Tripura, elaborate a scheme of cause and effect, of action and results and fruits, and consequently, the individuals were born later to revolve in that wheel of cause and effect. So beautiful, incredibly beautiful. So the individuals are born out of ignorance somehow. When it was born, it was never beginning. It's beginningless ignorance. Okay. It's not beginning because it's not a linear phenomenon. It's a cyclical. It goes from the Hiranyagarbha, which is the egg or the seed of the universe, and then it unfolds all the way until it manifests physically. And then in the process, still in the macrocosm causal body, Ishwara is bring forth the entire universe. And then we see all its laws and principles which are going to hold the universe in place and provide a stage in which the individuals can interact and grow, learn and grow, gaining wisdom. So, and how it's going to hold this stage into place? By all the physical laws and also the moral, karmic laws which are totally based on cause and effect, actions and results of actions, causality, the most fundamental principle of the universe. So it elaborates among all other laws, physical laws, among many others, also this spiritual or ethic or moral law called causality, actions and its results. And by doing so, the individuals are born later on, once the whole process unfolds, grossifying into the Vyavaharika, and the individual is born there and to revolve in the wheel of samsara, wheel of cause and effect, actions and consumption of the results are bitter, either or sweet, and one is caught up wanting to enjoy only the sweet fruits and not the bitter ones. So one is caught up in this well of samsara, well of cause and effect. They take different shapes and are placed in different environments consistent with their desires, predispositions. So how we come where we came, how we come to a point of desire, self-knowledge, and liberation is through this process. Cause and effect. I'm totally invested in action and its results. I know that happiness must come through actions, which are the cause and the result. The palam must be sweet, must be favorable, must be providing me with the happiness. So I know I can control the field and only enjoy sweet fruits, sweet results of my actions. So one has to grow to the point of seeing how impossible that is. And then one gets the punya, the merits, the grace of the Lord, and then the scriptures on self-knowledge are presented to the individual. But many times the individual, for lack of discrimination, lack of qualification, walks away from it after some time or some years. They take different shapes, these born and reborn souls, different shapes in places, in different cultures, environments. And this is all consistent, personally designed according to one's vasanas. Vasanas are determining our birth. After passing through innumerable species as well, not only the human species, the individual evolves as a human being owing to the merit it has accumulated. At first, he will take the self-pursuits, as we know. Now I want security, and I want all the pleasures of this world. And later on, I'm going to try to understand what is Dharma and what is a Dharma. But now I want security and pleasures, entertainment. And this produces more and more desire. And when it is caught up in a whirlpool of desires, which appears to have no way out sometimes, you know, and then all the illness samsara manifests, ambition and competition and jealous and envy and desire for power, control. But slowly, in due course, the methods advocated in the holy books will be encountered. Failures are inevitable everywhere. Disappointments will result. Expert advice is then searched for. Such advice will be forthcoming only from men living in this unbroken certainty of self-knowledge or unbroken beauty or wisdom. Nice, beautiful passage, huh? So one is going to be experiencing the world with growing desires. Ambition will grow, but in due course, one is going to suffer so much of the samsara sickness that one is going to purify through that suffering to attract somehow the scriptures and a guru who can unfold the scriptures. So many failures are unavoidable everywhere for every soul. Disappointments always result here and there. But finally enough, expert advice is going to be sought. So that's the point, that one develops those pre-qualifications I often mention, you know, which is humbleness, no? Humbleness and the patience. So humility and patience. One is to have an ego that says, no, I can't do it alone. I need help. I need help. I need help. Huh? So the ego hurts when it says, I need help. When I was a teenager, I was in a very bad shape. And came a day that I turned to my mother, my difficult relationship, the most difficult relationship of my life. And I told her, I can't stand it anymore. I need help. I said, what are you talking about? I need help. I'm suffering too much. Yeah? I was maybe 16, 17, and there began my new life, searching to improve, to heal, and so on, you know. But it has to come from an ego that accepts its impotence, yeah, and needs help, whatsoever level of help one needs. Now, we always get the help at the stage we encounter ourselves, we find ourselves in. Such advice of the teacher will be forthcoming only from a true guru, a guru who has living this knowledge in unbroken certainty or wisdom or beatitude. Such a sage will, in due course, initiate the seeker in divine magnificence, in self-inquiry and self-knowledge. The initiates accumulated merits, reinforced by association with the wise, and by divine grace, making him persist in the course and gradually taking him step by step to the highest pinnacle of self-knowledge. Very beautiful. Now he's answering, he's closing his discourse, you know, his lecture. So now what comes first? So disappointment, suffering, you know, frustration, grief, and so on, because you can't, you know, find happiness in the world. you suffer even more when you see that all success you had still failed to deliver you what you are seeking for. So in that condition, you find the sage. The association appears when you are humble and you are willing to get into this process, humbleness and patience. And this is followed by what? Trust, confidence in the guru and in the scripture. Such sage will in due course initiate the seeker. The initiates accumulated merits. So merit is nothing but the grace of Ishwara. When we have demerits, we say that it's not a grace, it's the Ishwara's punishment. So it's different angles of the grace. But the grace, even the punishment of a father or mother, has in mind the well-being of the children, you know? So the initiates accumulate merits reinforced by association. You have already grace working for you. It brought you to a guru. And now you're going to stay with the guru because you are humble, you are patient, and you trust the guru and the scripture. These will reinforce the process, and the association will be reinforcing this divine grace, these blessings, these merits. You're going to grow in punya, spiritual punya, by association with the wise. So now, and then you're going to become strong to persist in the course of self-knowledge gradually, how long it may take. Step by step, the guru will lead the disciple to self-knowledge, the highest pinnacle of true happiness. So beautiful. Now you understand how association with the wise is said to be the root cause of all that's good. This happened partly through the accumulated punya, spiritual punya of the person, and part through his unselfish devotion to God. Very nice. So the person must be a religious person to come to Vedanta, to come to a true guru who is going to convey self-inquiry and self-knowledge, which is the only means to liberate the soul. So this happens by association with God. You need to be a spiritual, religious person, devote to God, and then you're going to be dealing and purifying that selfish ego, until you become unselfish, devote to God. Devoting all your actions as a service to God, as the field, as the Dharma. This happens partly through the merits of the person. My punya, I have spiritual punya, and punya has taken me to understand that there is God, there is Creator, there is Ishwara, and I'm devoted to Ishwara. I'm grateful to Ishwara. But always as if by accident, like a fruit which has suddenly fallen from the void. So how does it happen? There is a lot of unseen cause there, which appears to be grace, merits, past lives, which unavoidably has to be related to devotion to God. But then when the person, develops this association with the scripture, the guru, and the desire for self-knowledge, it appears almost as if by accident. Isn't it so? I have no idea where it came from in my case. I knew that when I was young, I was not fitting in the society, and I was suffering. And then I began trying to remove the suffering. And then when I see I have a desire for liberation, like anything I would never ever imagine. So it appears almost as if by accident, like a fruit which is maturing without anybody notes. One day falls, pop. Now, the ripening process is invisible and slow, but the sudden fall is sudden. It looks like, oh, what an accident. I have a ripe mango just falling here and I'm going to enjoy it. No, there is no accident in life. Therefore, the goal of life being dependent on so many causes, there is variety in its attainment, either according to the intellect or the predispositions of the person. The state of the yoni also differs according to his efforts have been great or less great, more intense or less intense. So the cause for this desire for liberation and association with the wise, appears like, oh my God, where did it come from? So, but there are many causes, unseen causes, unrecognized causes, and this is going to condition my and redirect my life, and the goals of lives are going to change. There are many causes there, and then it's going to produce different attainments or pursuits, and these pursuits are going to be according to one's discrimination, discernment, intellect, and one's vasanas, predispositions. The state of the yoni also differs. And then once the yoni is properly established, the state of the yoni also is going to be different. According to what? According to his mind. Every mind is different. Every mind is more or less pure. And purification takes place through discipline. So the efforts in discipline and purifying the mind may be greater or less greater. The state of the yana, as we know, is one and the same in all yanis, but the mental state of the yani also differs. Before yana, so the disciple has different tendencies, a different mind with different degrees of purity and impurity. And once it becomes yani also, the mind differs from one yani to another according to one's purities, which is a byproduct of one's efforts to discipline and live a righteous life. If you guys have anything to add to all of these commentaries, you please feel free.
I've been thinking about Swami P's definition, or what he teaches about Ishwara's grace. And he says that it's available always as Icha, Jnana, and Kriya Shaktis, that we have the ability to choose, the ability to know, and the ability to act based upon the scriptural understanding. And so putting all those three responsibly into motion is what he calls Ishwara's grace. I think that's a lovely.
It's a very technical, very detailed, broken down into those three energies. So, but fundamentally, in a simple language, is a proper exercise of our human intelligence or free will. And once we properly exercise our free will, so the results is good results. I'm putting good words, good deeds, and then I'm going to get my grace, my punya, spiritual punya, because that's what we want as karma yogs and yana yogs. So as we hear James say in the past at least, that grace must be earned. So it must be earned, and we earn it by purifying this intellect, this mind, and exercising this human intelligence in a proper way according to the instructions of the scriptures, no? Very nice. Proportionally, slight effort is enough for erasing slight vasanas. Oh, very nice. So if we have a very easy, weak vasana, so I don't need much effort. But he whose mind has been made pure by good deeds is in success past incarnation, gains supreme results quite out of proportion to the third effort, to the little effort he may make, as with the king Janaka or Janaka. So we see that some people, they may get this self-knowledge almost with effort. Well, he did not have much ignorance, in his mind, his causal body, playing. He comes almost already self-realized. It was made pure by good deeds in this life or in previous lives, past incarnations, of course. And then the fruits, which is self-knowledge and purification, come with very little effort. The glimpse of jnana, realization of the self, aham must be gained by one whose mind is crowded with dense vasanas accumulated in past incarnations, does not suffice to override one's deep-root ignorance. So this is also nicely put. A lot of people have glimpses of self-realization, but somehow there is a lot of vasanas or ignorance is still impacting one's subtle body, one's mind. Why? There are too many dense, hardwired, not light vasanas, profound vasanas that are going to be challenging this self-knowledge or this glimpse of self-knowledge. I know what I am, I know, and why I'm not experiencing this freedom, this knowledge from my desires and fear, because the vasanas are hardwired, they are very dense, difficult to be uprooted. And then it requires great effort, of course. It's too much work. Oh, why God gave me all this vasana? No, God did not give it to you. No, you worked it, and that's what brought you here. You should be happy that you were brought to Vedanta and the teacher. No? One's deep-root vasanas, such a one is obliged to practice nididhyasana and control of the organs, control of the mind, control of the instruments of actions. Everything has to be a discipline. One almost cannot live much of a life because there is so much work at hand. No? So if one is serious and one has a mind crowded with dense ignorance, one has no other option but work hard. Practicing meditation, nididhyasana, studying the scriptures, doing the disciplines of control, watching the mind, watching your thoughts, your behavior, the patterns of thoughts. And then if not in this life, but in successive births, you will be prepared for the final realization. Thus, there are seen to be a different class of sages. Definitely, we know. We see it. The shown of Brighut's lineage, there are apparent difference in the characteristics of jnanis caused by the aspects and attitudes of the mind, of the intellect, and varieties of its activities. So we see that the self-realized is different you can see on a grosser level by what one does in terms of activities. You can see if people are doing stupid activities or wise activities, and then we can see the attitudes of the mind behind those activities as well. So I'm doing nice activities now. I'm associating with the scripture, and I'm associating with other spiritual seekers or seekers of moksha. So and I'm doing good work, and applying the principles of karma yoga and so on. So there is a good attitude which is yoga, and there are good activities which is karma. So you're gonna see. So there are differences in the characteristics of yanis because they come from the same background, one's vasanas, that somehow, in spite of these vasanas, self-knowledge was gained, but yet the yani is going to appear to be different according to one's attitudes and one's actions and words. Such differences are quite obvious in Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, Shiva, the destroyer, who are great yanis by nature. So Brahma is there create, Vishnu is there working to preserve, and Shiva is there destroying everything. So the three aspects of Ishwara. That does not mean yana realization admits varieties in yana itself. Yana is yana. All of them have the same knowledge. I am limitless, free and independent consciousness, existence of limitless nature. All of them know that. But the fruits of this knowledge are going to appear slightly different from one according to the configuration of one's vasana load, one's mind, which is going to produce one's personality, one's character, one's attitudes, one's actions, thoughts, and deeds. So here it says, these attitudes, which appear to be different, depend on their predisposition of vasanas and depends on the environment. Just imagine the person has the same kind of predisposition with another one, both get self-knowledge, but one was born there in Himalayas having to do nothing. But that example does not apply much, because if he was born there, he did not have much predisposition for actions like a Rajasic person that is not born there in Himalaya. But anyhow, the environments, we know that environments is going to shape our personality, our vasanas as well, because association is everything. If we associate with a Rajasic environment, that is going to stimulate Raja Guna, and I will develop a slightly more Rajasic temperament, disposition. So the attitudes depend on the vasanas, the dispositions, and the environment one finds itself in. That's why it is recommended, if you want to go through this process, it's better to look for sattvic environment. What is a sattvic environment? Not much activity, and not much procrastination either. A balance in which your mind is calm but does not fall asleep. It's alert. And then you can do your nididhyasana, your shravana, your manana. So the sages are many, and it's going to be the difference due to the vasanas and the environments they find them in. They are lords of the universe, and they are all-knowing. Their yana is pure and uncontaminated by what they do. Whether yana is fair or dark in complexion, his yana neither shares these qualities which belong to the physical body. nor the qualities of the mind as well. Because what's going to appear to repair the yanis is the physical, the body-mind configuration, qualities of the physical body and qualities of the physical mind, and the culture, which is environment. So every one of these yanis in a different culture who is used to do certain things as at code. It's okay to do like that. In India, it's okay to eat with your hands, And so there are many things that refer to environment or culture and the quality of your mind and the configuration of your physical body. None of this is going to affect the yana, but the expression of this yana comes from a different instrument, okay, the body-mind complex. The difference in the three sons of Atri, namely Duvasa, said to be of the aspect of Shiva and reputed to be exceedingly irritable. So now he brings, Dattatreya brings an example. Duvasa is somebody who is irritable, grumpy, and it does not affect the yana. It just affects the mind. If you have an attitude or vasana of being irritable, you are going to experience an irritable mind, and it's uncomfortable. Of course, the yana recovers more quickly, but it's a pain to be irritable or angry. So this Duvasa is one of the three sons of Atri, was said to be a yani, but irritable one. And then the other brother was a very engaged person, husband of 27 constellations who are in the turn daughters of Daksha. And myself, Dattatreya, he's bringing himself in this example as one of these three sons of Atri. Dattatreya, of the aspect of Sriman Narayana or Vishnu, repute to be the ideal of all saints, roaming nude in the forest, totally dispassionate. Vashista, one of the greatest rishis, well known as the family preceptor of the solar line of kings, never fails in the strictest adherence to duty as prescribed by the scriptures, whereas Sanaka, Sananda, Sanastujata, and Sanatikumara, for the four sons of Brahma's volition and instructed by Narada, are types of sages totally indifferent to any action, including religious rites. That's quite something. Just imagine in India, in this culture, to have some of these sages who are totally indifferent to all these rituals, the rites, pujas, and tapas, anything. Narada is the ideal devotion, bhakti. This is another characteristic. Romantic, loving personality. Bhagava Sukra, the well-known preceptor of Asuras who incessantly fight against the gods, supports the enemies of the gods, whereas the equally great sage Brihaspati supports the gods against their enemies. So this is one of the things that somehow it didn't click to me yet when the scripture, this passage, which is not really Vedanta, talks about the gods of the Asuras, So, I mean, how can be God can be there fighting against good on the side of the evil, the Asuras. But yet they present those as gods. And nowadays there are people who present that the gods of these people and that people are just, satanic entities or But how can we call them gods? You know? But if we say that, okay, there is three aspects of Ishwara: creator, sustainer, and destroyer. So the third aspect may be that let's put an end on all of this. But I don't know. I find this concept a bit strange. If anybody can help me out at any time, please, yeah, feel free.
The only way I can figure it is in the Gita when Krishna shows himself to Arjuna and eating people in his mouth. Yeah. They're just the devatas, right? Those forces of nature, like you say, just the destroyers. And
yeah. I know my difficulty is to take them to be sages or gods. You understand? Fighting against the good gods, because the good gods are the one who wants to support the good people, justice and dharma. You understand? Like, so dharma is the basic structure of the universe, so that all beings can live in harmony. And then we have the gods that come here to support, to help, to sustain the dharma, like Krishna says. When the situation of society gets to such an extreme, I come down again and again to fight and destroy the enemies, to destroy the gods who are working side by side with Duryodhana, and destroy all the violators of dharma. So how can we call these guys gods as well? They are fighting against the gods who support the Dharma. They support the enemies of the gods, whereas the other side, there is sage Brihaspati, the preceptor of gods. The other is the preceptor of the enemies of God. So how can an entity, he's giving examples of varieties of self-realization, self-realized yanis. How can an entity who fights against Dharma, fights against the supporters of the Dharma? So this is confusing to me. And then there are others that are all the time coming up with new scriptures and propagating these teachings in a different format and shape, such as Mahabharata, the Puranas, Upapuranas, and so on. Janaka famous as the ascetic king. So someone who is grihasta, engaged as the king, but yet in the pursuit of self-knowledge becomes a yani, and then he can let go of the kingdom, or can even stay fulfilling that role. And scripture says there are several kings that made the kingdom a beautiful kingdom in which there was justice and happiness and wisdom, in society. Some become like fools and idiots and many others. Okay. There is a note here regarding Jadabarata, which was named here somewhere. Or not. I think I looked back and I did not find it named before. It's named here. Jadabarata was a great king who, according to the custom of the great Kshatriya emperors, abdicated his throne in favor of his son when he attained his majority and retired in the forest to do penance. On one occasion, hearing the roar of a lion, a deer in an advanced state of pregnancy, took fright and leaped across the stream, her womb was disturbed, and she landed on the other shore with her young one in its placenta, and she died. So the deer was pregnant, and she was scared by a lion. She crossed the stream of the river, and she died in the process, but the baby was born. So this hermit, this Jadabrata, who has retired in the forest to do penance, took pity of this little creature, washed this baby deer, took the deer in his hands, and returned to his hermitage. The babe deer was carefully tended and remained always by its master's side. The hermit and the deer grew fond of each other. When you grow fond of each other, attachment is unavoidable. Let's see what happened to the sage here, the king. After some time, the hermit knew that he was dying and became anxious about the safety of the deer, which was his most beloved companion. How is going to survive in the forest after my death? Nobody, and he's not wild. He's not used to survive on its own. So he was so anxious about the condition of the babe deer. He died with a thought and was immediately reincarnated as a deer as well. Being a sage, dying as a sage with a pure disposition, he immediately reincarnated deer, was placed in a holy spiritual environment in which he could enhance and retain self-knowledge, the knowledge, spiritual knowledge gained in his past incarnation. So he did not associate with its species. So he was not a deer like any other. It was a strange deer, maybe like the Lakshmi cow in the Ramana ashram. So this deer was there only next to the sage, to the whole environment in which there was satsang and chanting of the scriptures and so on. He stayed in that environment. He was attracted to that environment. And everybody said, oh, how cool this deer, huh? He comes for satsang every day. He did not associate with other deers. He was there chanting, listening to the chanting and discussions on the philosophy of Vedanta. But then it came to age and died. When he died, he was reborn as a Brahmin, a boy in a high, in an elevated Brahmin family. The parents died while he was still young. So the boy was always helping others, but never took to any definite work. He did not develop a career or anything. He was just like, oh, you need help, you need help. And he was health strong, and he did not need much care and maintenance. He was self-sustained somehow. The neighborhood put him down and looking at him as a misfit or outfit, like an idiot who is just doing small things and never think of his future and career. And so he appeared as they loafed about. One night, the ruling chief of Tripura passed in a palanquin. He was in the haste to reach a renowned sage who lived in another province. One of his bearers took ill on the way, so his men looked about for a substitute. Bearers must be someone who was carrying the king, or something like that. So one person got killed, got ill, and then he needed a substitute. And then there was this apparent idiot, this boy who was always up to help. The Brahmin boy, the idiot, was there, and they pressed him to take the work, and he did so. lifting the palanque. The chief was irritated at the slow pace of all the bears put together and was always giving them a hard time. After repeated warnings, the pace continued to be slow and the chief was wild with rage. He put all the carriers, yeah, and found that there was a new recruit to be the culprit. So, and then they blamed the newcomer, in order to hasten. Still, there was no improvement after the punishment, no improvement. And the chief cheated him again, but could make no impression or change on the idiot, on the boy. Maybe the boy was not the cause, but he was already being looked down and abused and bullied, and they need a scapegoat, and they took it upon him. The chief was exasperated, got down once again, and remonstrated with him. It's really complained even more harder and harder with the boy. But he received a reply from the boy, which astonished him. So too bad that the triad does not say what was the reply. But the reply was so impacting. And then there was some further conversation between the chief and the boy that convinced the chief that the boy was a great soul. So the chief became the disciple of the idiot boy. Jadabrata, the idiot. So just to give more of an illustration of how a sage can be of different configuration according to karma, fundamentally. There are so many others with individual characteristics, such as Shivana and Yajnavalkya and Vishnamitra. The secret is this. This is what we have seen so far. There is a note here. Shivana, a king, once went to the royal family. It's a long story. I'm not going to begin. This is a very nice story, beautiful. But we're going to leave it for this coming Thursday. Okay? We begin from the verse 78. Anything from you?
I was thinking, Arlinda, about you saying that seeming demons as gods and fighting against the gods. We look at Krishna and all the legends and mythology behind Krishna. We find that he had these leelas, and his leelas were often fighting demons. And I think these demons were superpowered beings, and these were called gods as well. And quite often they were gods who had become undharmic.
Yeah, I totally agree with this reading of yours. It's more or less in line with, I understand, it's just powerful entities, that somehow took place against Dharma, but they are powerful and they are seen as gods that we should be afraid of, and
Yeah.
so on. Very nice, thank you. Very nice note. Okay, anything for you, Sylvia?
I have my mic. No.
Are you with us?
Yes.
Okie dokie. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. Thank you, Ishwara. Thank you, my good friends. We meet again soon. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alinda.
Thank you, Ma.
Bye.